film fan? Anybody love IMAX films? Come on. Come on. What's the last one you saw? What's the last IMAX film anybody saw? Shout it out. That one.
I like that. Thank you.
We saw it here last year. Well, Shaun MacGillivray is the president of MacGillivray Freeman Films. His dad started the business how many years ago? Decades ago?
Yeah, 40.
Something,
Yeah.
The 60s?
Yeah.
And miraculously, they've produced over 40 IMAX films in just the last 3 decades. And if you've ever watched one of these films, you know what an epic mission it is to go and film these things. It's just incredible. But let's just show the reel here and give you an idea of what MacGillivray Freeman's all about. And that's not on an IMAX screen or in 3D. When you see it in an IMAX theater, the impact is immense, right? And what's really interesting is the fact that these films get funded by a combination of efforts from brands and foundations. And we'll talk a little bit more about that too. But anyone who's seen an IMAX film knows that, cinematically, it's such a stunning experience. But probably not many people really understand, the distribution and the viewership and the unique attributes of the audience for an IMAX film. So you talk about how these films are actually seen.
Yeah, totally, Rick. So just a little background on us. My dad started making, it's a family company. We're based out of Laguna Beach, about 30 people in Laguna. My dad started making surf films back in the late 60s, early 70s. Those did well enough where he was like, hey, I can do this for a living. He then went to Hollywood, worked with the likes of Stanley Kubrick, to the opening of The Shining, where the car goes up to the crazy hotel, and then got tapped by the Smithsonian to make their first IMAX film called To Fly. And that was back in 1976. There was just 4 IMAX theaters in existence. Now there's over 1,000, and we've done, as Rick said, 40 IMAX films, including Everest, Living Sea, and most recently National Parks Adventure, America's Musical Journey, and Dream Big. But we both produce and distribute, and it's a pretty, for documentary filmmakers, it's a pretty awesome platform. The fact that you can actually show your content on this enormous screen, and that there's distribution that'll be out there for 6 months to a year, and sometimes years. Like our film To Fly is actually still playing at the Smithsonian today. Since 1976, it looks a little bit dated, but it still draws crowds, and so. For us, we love that. There's about 150 cities around the world that play our films. And then the window is about a year to a year and a half, then we go out to streaming, whether that's Netflix, whether it's Amazon, typically Netflix right now. So like, for instance, Dream Big, you can watch that on Netflix. National Parks Adventure, which we partner with Brand USA, which Giselle is in the room and Jody's in the room too. That film's on Netflix as well. But yeah, so that's the type of distribution. 25% of the audience is school kids, so being able to get kids, sometimes for the first time, to come to museums and science centers, you provide educational outreach attached to it. They watch the film and they learn about it in the classroom, whatever the topic is interesting. It's a different type of format. It's almost like an exhibit in a way, rather than a film. I always think of it less Hollywood and more like inspirational storytelling, but from a documentary standpoint.
So with each one of the films, there is an educational aspect to it where schools are bringing students in and they make that affordable to them, and it's almost a field trip to IMAX to go learn something, right?
Yeah.
Talk about the film you did with Bechtel and how that worked.
Yeah, I mean, this is a cool case study, especially like as we're in the rooms talking about. We did a meeting with foundations and brands together, and that was a film where American Society of Civil Engineers came to us, and they said, "Hey, we need to inspire more engineers, specifically more women and more minorities into engineering. We need to make it sexy. We need to get kids to think about, hey, I could do this."
Engineering's pretty sexy, right?
I mean,
In
our film it is. Like we made it sexy. And we said, hey, we can do that. We've got a great platform. We've got these amazing, middle schoolers that are seeing this film, and a broad variety of audiences. But we think we can inspire them. And so they put up about $2.5 million, and then we went out together and raised the rest. It was a $15 million campaign. And we were able to get Bechtel Corporation, which they're a private company, built the Hoover Dam, one of the biggest private companies in the world. And then we also got the S.D. Bechtel Jr. Foundation, which it's a $1 billion foundation. The granddad of the grandson who runs Bechtel, he basically gives back when it comes to education. So we pitched him. He got excited about it, got excited about inspiring that next generation of leaders and engineers. He put up $7.5 million. Bechtel Corporation, through their foundation, put up $3 million. And then we got a variety of other engineering foundations to put up the rest. But right now, the film's played in museums and science centers all over the world. It's still playing in some. It's on Netflix, and we are putting it through Bechtel's help. We're getting it in every single school across the country, and there's a lot of schools. And we're doing it the old-fashioned way. It's the DVD and then an educational outreach DVD. But we make sure that the teachers know about it so that they can actually use it and provide it in the classroom for about a day of lesson plans.
So to create from the minute you envision a film and get the partners together to shooting it, it seems like such an epic adventure of helicopters and cameras and travel and let's get the brass tacks here. How long does it take?
Yeah.
What's it cost?
Yeah. I mean, I'll use the example of National Parks Adventure, which was with our partners, Brand USA, who I was saying are in the room. Thank you, Giselle. So that came about in 2014. I started speaking with Tom Garzilli, who's the CMO of Brand USA, and we started talking about being able to use this platform and thinking about a film that inspired travelers, because Brand USA, just a little background on who they are, they're the destination marketing organization of the U.S. for international travelers to come to the U.S. And they spend about $100 to $150 million a year getting international travelers inspired and wanting to come to the U.S. And so we put together this plan of let's create an IMAX film that plays all over the world with obviously a major international focus, but on the national parks, because it was the 100th anniversary of the National Park Service in 2016. And so from that, we were able to get the board to approve it, and they became the owners of the film. It was $10 million for the production of the film and $2.5 million for marketing and co-op and advertising. And then we went out together and looked for additional partners to offset those costs. And we found Expedia as a fantastic partner. They're endemic to travel, and so they had already had a relationship with Brand USA, but they also wanted to be able to light a spark, inspire people to come to the US, and then activate that by getting them to actually book on Expedia. From Subaru's standpoint, because that's non-endemic, it worked out incredibly well because they had this initiative called Zero Landfill, which basically they don't, when it comes to all their plants, nothing goes to landfill. And so incredibly sustainable. And they were actually teaching the national parks about how to do that in the national parks. And they wanted to be able to tell that story and market that story. And so they partnered with us. They actually had Teddy Roosevelt Jr., the grandson of Teddy Roosevelt, to become kind of like spokesperson. And we did a variety of videos with their agency, and then they also were a part of the film. So there is some, we don't really call it product placement, but there is a Subaru in the car, and luckily our main character, Max, had a Subaru. He's a major lover of Subaru, so that was that actually helped a lot with getting them on board.
So you've proven that you can actually put multiple brands onto a project and they can cooperate with one another, right?
I mean, not only that, I mean, we had, when it came to, we did country-specific partnerships. So like in China, we had Youku and Wanda as partners. Youku, the trailer was seen 100 million times there. All total, the film's been seen about 10 million people theatrically. And Netflix won't give you the data, although they did do that with Bird Box, which was pretty cool.
Maybe they'll let you have it too.
Yeah,
right?
I hope it's big. Yeah,
Right.
I always say it's 10, 15 million.
So
Yeah.
your first film with Brand USA was National Parks Adventure,
Yeah.
right? And then America's Musical Journey that we screened here last year with Aloe Black, that was fabulous. So back to back. Now, are you working on a third film?
Yeah, we are. And I mean, I think to Brand USA's credit and to just the formation of a fantastic partnership, through third-party data, because you got to have the ROI. Like, why? Like, is this really helping? Is this like you're getting people to see it and they're getting inspired? You kind of know that already when you watch it on a giant screen. You're like, oh, how could you not want to go to the national parks after seeing this movie? But we did third-party data third-party research, and the ROI was pretty incredible. It was in the first year alone, it was just over 170 million of direct spend from international travelers coming to the U.S. because of seeing the movie. And with that, the board was able to say, hey, let's do another one, but this time, let's do more urban, and let's find a way to tie in an urban story, getting people excited about going to these cities across the U.S., and we use music as that lens. And so we had Aloe Black as our main character, and it's basically telling the story, which was very unique in the time period of when it came out, which is February of 2018, of how important creativity and diversity and immigration was to the birth of jazz, the birth of the blues, the birth of rock and roll. And if we didn't have that, we may not have been able to create those incredible genres that have obviously become worldwide. And I think that was pretty important in the time frame that we were in 2018 to be able to have that type of story around the world. And so both those have been very successful. And we're now on our third film with Brand USA, and we're going back to the wild in a way, exploring wild America, about trails and trailblazers from the first Native Americans to come here back 20,000 years ago down the Kelp Highway through to Lewis and Clark, through to basically these ancient trails that are now, the trails that we all live on every day when it comes to road trips. And, the big goal for us from a cause standpoint is getting kids, off the couch, off their iPhones, off their iPads, and into nature. And there's obviously a lot of brands that love that as well and have that as a mission. And there's a lot of foundations that have that mission too. And so it's not only just inspiring people to come to the U.S., but it's also inspiring people in the U.S. because it's domestic and international to be like, oh my God, we've got so much amazing stuff in our own backyard.
I think it's just a terrific testament to the efficacy of this film, of the distribution, that Brand USA is now coming back for the third time. That's a tremendous partnership, but a partnership like that only works when the film works.
It has to work.
Yeah, so
it has to work.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and a big part of it is you have the distribution, but it's also what are the other partners and what can they provide besides just, it's great to get cash, but how can they make it so it's bigger as far as marketing? And so when you have when you think about it, like the fact that these films can take 18 months to 2 years during that time period, I'm doing it 24/7 with Brand USA. Who can be these other partners that can help, that have the same goals and missions, and can help leverage it and make it go out to as many people as possible.
That's terrific. So can you explain how the model would work for a brand? Because they are an equity partner in the film. They own the IP? Is that
Yeah.
So that's not always the case, of course. So
Yeah.
In your model, let the brands know, how does that exactly work?
Yeah,
So they recoup some
there's
of
kind
their
of there's kind
investment.
of two models. There's one which was Brand USA, with National Parks, America's Musical Journey, and now the working title is Exploring Wild America, and that's where they came on board as the main funder, and then we go out and offset those costs with other partners, and then because people actually pay tickets to see these, there's revenue on the back end, and so all total, when it came to National Parks, we're pretty close to break even with their investment, which is great. If you came to me and said, here's $10 million and I want to make $15 to $20 million back, I go invest that in stock market or something. But if you're thinking about it from a marketing standpoint, when the ROI is zero after a while, ROI is zero, and that's pretty incredible. And so that's been very effective. The other model that we've done is we found a founding partner who doesn't have all of that money, because obviously it's a lot of money. And then we go out together and we raise the additional funding. We find those partners, whether those are brands, whether those are foundations, whether those are high net worth individuals who want to be a part of it. And when it comes to the equity, basically we just say, you got to sell it. So it's either going to be, you're going to own all the equity, and it might be a little bit harder to find those partners if they want equity, and then we can figure that as we go. But we'll make money off the production and a little bit off distribution fee.
Right. So, in all transparency, I got to say I've been a fan of MacGillivray Freeman since 1970, I think. I was a young surfer in Hawaii very young, 1972, when 5 Summer Stories came out. Anybody see 5 Summer Stories? Remember that film? Thanks, Gunnar. You're showing your age too. Yeah. Great soundtrack by Honk Band from Laguna Beach. I live in Dana Point. Sean's in Laguna. But I saw the film premiere at the Haleiwa Theater, where half of the people in the theater were actually in the film, and it was an amazing experience. But your dad's a surfer, so well known in the surf industry, and that's where your roots are. I understand that there's a chance that you might be looking at doing an IMAX film on surf that you've never done. Is that right?
So, we've done 40 IMAX films. My dad started his career, and he made like 10 surf films back in the day. I wish I was a fly on the wall back then, because he'd tour it around the country, especially on the coast, and he'd get all these old school stuff, because this is like the early 70s. Surfers in, and they were all baked out of their mind, and they come in. But still,
I resemble that remark.
They come in, and he'd be narrating it. It wasn't on the master sound. He'd be actually narrating it with some great band in the background, and they'd be seeing like all these great surfing. And there wasn't
in the back of the theater.
Yeah, there wasn't any DVDs or Blu-rays back then. So, it'd just be so, but packed, crazy lines out the door. And my mom, because my mom and dad actually grew up in high school. They were sweethearts from then on. But she would be doing the tickets and collecting the money. And so my dad, we're like going to different city. But my dad would be like, okay, if anybody actually tries to steal money, just give it to them. I don't want you to get hurt. And then the one time that actually happened, and somebody came to gunpoint, like this. I think it was again like a surfer that was a little bit doped up. She froze, and she didn't give him the money, and then he just ran away. And she was like, "Hey, I did it. We didn't, we still have the money." Anyways, sorry, where were we going? Yes. So
the roots of the company are in surf films, but you haven't made a surf film.
Yes, so I know. So we've done 40 IMAX films. We've never done a surf film, and we want to do one now. And we still got to find the money. But I just think it'd be an incredible topic, not only just being able to see these incredible, huge waves, life-size on a giant screen, but also the importance of our oceans and the importance of us feeling connected to nature in an interesting way along the coast, but all over the world. And so,
I think, you also sit on an archive of surf content that's probably the richest in the world, right? I mean, your dad still has all the stuff from the 60s and 70s.
And it's just crazy. I mean, it's like a blast from the past. It's just crazy. We've never really shown any of it. So this is
See what you got in mind.
Yeah, so this is just a short kind of sizzle piece that we've done. We haven't gone really out to market yet, and we're finding the partners that are going to be with it. But here's a little fun, something fun.
The largest and meanest waves in the world slam into a headland in Portugal called Nazaré.
Here we are in Maui, where today surfers from all over the globe see if they have what it takes to ride some of the biggest waves in the world.
I want to see that film. Go make that film, Shaun.
I'm ready. I'm ready, Coach.
What's your next film coming out?
So we've got 2 films this year. One is on the Great Bear Rainforest, which is in British Columbia, home to the spirit bear. It's like a black bear that looks like a polar bear. There's only 100 in existence. That was paid for by a wealthy family in Canada that wants to protect that place. And then we have another film called Apollo 11, which is actually screening. The 90-minute documentary is screening at Sundance, and we're doing a 40-minute documentary that comes out in June, July. And then our next one with Brand USA, Exploring Wild America, which is the working title again, is February 2020. And so we're actually in production right now, going all over the U.S., finding amazing characters. And it's been, a blessing.
That's great. Give it up for Shaun MacGillivray,
Thanks,
folks.
you guys.